On the line with us right now is Ruth Busalacchi. Now, she is a top franchisee with Synergy HomeCare, which is helping our older family members stay at home, to live in their home longer. You know how much the pull to stay home is strong within all of us, and that's why we have Ruth on. And good morning, Ruth. How are you doing?
Well, good morning, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Well, as I said, people want to stay at home. They don't want to have to move into a home. They want to stay into their home, and that's what you guys are trying to help people do. Explain exactly what Synergy HomeCare is about.
Oh, sure. So what we do at Synergy HomeCare is we design a plan that's unique to the individual because, of course, we all want something different in life. And we design that plan so that they can stay at home, so that they have the support that they need. That could be anything from running errands, doing some housekeeping, going up and down the stairs to do the laundry, making sure that they're having good, healthy meals and being an extra set of eyes for the family, all the way up to even daily care. If someone is having some memory or some cognitive issues, the important thing for people to know is that you can stay in your own home. You can bring the support in to you. But in order to do that, we, as advocates of our loved ones, we need to know truly what their goals are. And sometimes we make the assumption that we know what mom or dad or our loved ones need. And that's really the purpose of our concept of benevolent probing. We want to actually start having the conversations with our loved ones. What is your goal? What is your long-term goal? Would you like to stay in your own home despite whatever may come?
Yeah, and that's an important conversation. I know my grandpa a few months back had a stroke and then couldn't answer all these questions necessarily. People didn't know, was that what he really wants? And so you have to have these conversations before you get to that, moment of a stroke or an incident that occurs, and then you wonder. It's much better to know. So how do you recommend maybe someone having that conversation with their dad today?
I think, you hit it right on the head, Matt. It's having the conversation in advance. And even your story that you're sharing, that's a conversation starter. We all know someone who had a situation like that, where they were in an emergency or in a crisis, and suddenly the family has to step in and either advocate for what they believe their family needs, or wonder, do my parents have their legal affairs in order? Do they have the finances that are appropriate to stay at home at any cost? And so having that conversation, what are your long-term goals, Mom? What would you like for me to do to advocate for you? How can I help you? That itself is a conversation starter. The other thing that we believe in at Synergy HomeCare is we have created an entire resource list of tips and topics: how to prevent falls in the home, how to have these conversations, what are the types of things that you should be looking for that might indicate that it's time to start having these conversations. And that's on our website that anyone can pull up and pull out the resources that are appropriate for them at that moment.
And one of the things that often leads to someone wondering whether or not they can stay in their own home is their memory. And that's, I think, one of the harder conversations to have because, as men and women, as we grow, we know we can do less physically every year than we could the year prior. But memory and our cognitive abilities, that's harder to admit. So how do you have a memory loss conversation without insulting our loved ones?
Right. It's such a delicate conversation, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you think about how it might feel for our parents as they suspect they might be having memory issues, deep down, they're afraid. They're afraid of the future, and they want to protect us from worrying about them as well. They want to protect us from being a burden. So that's where this concept of benevolent probing comes in. We want to advocate, and at Synergy, we want to give you permission to dig a little bit deeper. So when you go to visit your parents, go ahead and take a look at their checkbook if they're still writing checks. You can learn a lot from someone's checkbook register to see if they're properly managing their finances. Are you noticing when you go to visit that they're there's a stack of bills that are piling up, or perhaps they're missing appointments, or, they don't look as though they've had a haircut in a while. Those could be indicators that they might be having memory issues, and they're just a little bit reluctant or afraid to bring it up to someone else. And that's your opportunity to then start having those conversations. You
can talk with Ruth Busalacchi about Synergy HomeCare and about taking care of our aging moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas. But even if they know that they're having memory loss, or they know that abilities are declining, it can still be tough. I remember my grandpa on the other side, he's passed many years ago, but driving was not safe anymore. But getting him to give up his keys was a big, big deal.
Probably the hardest of all is that last sign of independence, and I think we can all put ourselves in that position. And so we recommend that, when you go to visit, you might want to take a look at the car. If you're seeing some scrapes and some dents, that's an indicator, obviously, that things aren't going well. You might want to ask, where is it that you go drive? And if they're telling you that they're limiting their trips, that itself is an indicator. Sometimes you can get support from doctor, and you might suggest that they have their eyes checked, and the doctor can then support that decision to relinquish their driver's license. But that is a very difficult. At Synergy Home Care, we have caregivers who can also act as personal assistants, and they can drive for them. And how nice is that to think of having a chauffeur instead of, always asking your children, can you do me a favor? Can you run an errand for me? Instead, bringing somebody in to do that for you gives them back a little bit of that control over the situation.
You're talking with Ruth Busalacchi. She's been in this sort of field for a long time, been Director of Special Needs for Lutheran Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. She's now with Synergy Home Care. And so I can see how this is really useful, especially like if your parent lives away from you and wants to stay in their own home. But I'm going to use a personal example. My mom has had my grandpa move in with her, and she's taking care of him. But my worry is that she's going to get really burnt out taking care of him. So is Synergy Home Care or something like that able to come in and help caregivers?
Without a doubt. The family caregiver takes on quite a burden. And although it's a burden of love, right, you have
it's still hard.
And it, absolutely. And the studies show that a family caregiver themselves starts to have both physical and mental health issues. So for that reason, we believe very strongly in bringing in a caregiver for respite, and that's the concept of respite. And years ago, respite used to be a place that you would go, but truly, respite is just a break. It could be, once or twice a week so that your mother can go out to the movies with her girlfriends. It can be a weekend away. It can be in small spurts or longer weekends. And often, if you dig deep in your county, local counties, there's usually grants, money to help family members who need respite, because our government recognizes just how important respite for the family caregiver is.
Yeah, and what is the cost of something like that? Because I know some people, they don't feel as though, okay, well, I can't use this long-term care insurance if I'm not putting somebody into a nursing home facility. And so they worry about making sure they have enough money. And do I use my money? Do I use my dad's money? Those sorts of things.
Right. That's a loaded question, because it really just depends on the type of care that someone needs in their home. And that's one of the things that we do at Synergy Home Care. We come out to your home. We do an overall assessment. We assess the home for any tripping hazards. At the same time, we also look to see if you have funding that you might be able to tap into, like veterans benefits or long-term care insurance. Ultimately, it is almost always less expensive than bringing in a little bit of care to your home than it would be to have to move. So we really just focus on, let's try to make it fit within your budget. Let's perhaps start small. The needs are right now, and that might keep you from ever having to spend a lot of money later in the future.
Well, Ruth, it's such an important topic, and whether you go with Synergy or someone else, I know just making sure that we honor our aging loved ones is something that's near and dear to your heart, and so I appreciate your sharing this with us.
Well, thank you so much for shining a light on this topic.
Well, Ruth, once again, have a great day, and we'll maybe talk to you down the road.
Very good. Thank you, Matt.
Again, that's Ruth Busalacchi from Synergy Home Care talking about how to take care of our aging loved ones here on The Breakfast Club.